Hi, Matthew. My name's Nick. I worked for GW for a long time. I'm not what you'd call a typical employee. Um, I, when I say that, I mean I ran a lot of tournaments. I am what I would consider a pretty reasonably good painter and good at teaching that to other people. I cared about every customer, not just veterans or just new people or so on and so forth. So I think you kind of, in a way that you accuse Games Workshop of being out of touch, are out of touch. Now, while you claim that GW only cares about new people, which is kind of true, and there's a million reasons for that, which I'll get to in just a second. But you kind of don't care about new people either. Now, you care about them a little bit if they're, in their 20s, white geeky kid. Like, that's probably your target audience. And unfortunately for the rest of the world, there's a harder target audience out there, and that's the rest of the world. Because it's really easy to get those kind of people into the hobby, as opposed to older people, younger people, and everyone else in the world. Basically, is what I'm saying. Um, Now, you said that you were changing your business focus, and that when GW changed their agreement, it pushed you over the edge, I guess, is a nice way of saying it. And then you said it was, a little bit their fault, so on and so forth. And then you complained for 25 minutes. I don't know if you caught that, but that kind of happened. Um, so I'm going to touch on some of those points, and I don't have anything nice to say right now, so I'll let the rest of the points do the talking. GW doesn't compete on a market shelf to shelf, so to speak. They have their own stores, their own online sites, so on and so forth. So why do you think that they should sell their products to separate businesses at a reduced price to ruin their own business? Now, I think of one reason why they would do this, and that's called recruiting, getting their name out, just spreading the word generically. That's pretty much what I would say. Now, as that gets better, and as they now have tools to compete with you as far as online sales, so on and so forth, they don't need you anymore. And that sounds really mean, but it's true. And unfortunately, the meanness is what corporate businesses are really good at. Believe me, I know. And I'm sure you're feeling it right now. And I'm sure that you're a really nice dude, but that's just not a thing that is factored into any of the business decisions they make. Now, you also touched on their stores only being recruiting stores, which is something I mentioned earlier for just a second. Now, this is totally true. Their stores are only recruiting stores, and you said that veterans spend nowhere near the amount the same money as new hobbyists. You are completely correct in that respect, and I want not just you but everyone else to know how right that is. Now, with new hobbyists, there's really three different situations that GW gets himself into when recruiting a new hobbyist. Situation A new hobbyist comes in, spends anywhere between $100 to $200 on a starter set, tools, paint, glue, primer, so on and so forth. And when they do, the Games Workshop makes money. So situation A is them spending that much money and then going home and never using it, or using it once or twice and never really getting into the hobby. GW knows that they tried and they made money off of it, and a hefty amount of money at that. There's such a situation B. Situation B is that person gets into the hobby. They spend that money, they get into the hobby, they end up spending, I think the numbers are anywhere between like $500 to $700, including the starter set and all the tools in the first year. That's something around what a new hobbyist spends. Again, averages. numbers, actual business numbers. And situation C, they then tell a bunch of other people. You get new hobbyists into the hobby, not only in your local store, but in areas around your store, so on and so forth. And then that option C turns into another option A, B, or C, which then can exponentially increase. So that's a lot of money. When I was with the company, we were tasked with anywhere between 4 and 5 new hobbyists a week. That those were our numbers. Now, obviously, running lots of new events for new people, intro activities, and so on and so forth, you're going to talk to a lot of people that don't have any interest in the hobby at all. In fact, we could even call that option D, where a new person might be like, yeah, I don't really like this, but I know somebody that would like this. Now, websites don't offer that. Websites cater more towards veterans, which is absolutely fine. But you can understand why Games Workshop wouldn't care too much to support you then. Now, I'm a veteran, definitely. When I say I was not the typical employee, I've been in a lot of Games Workshops recently, and I know that there are some people that work in the stores or go to the stores that don't have a lot of knowledge of the hobby itself. I'm not one of those people. I have played almost every army. I recently got rid of a few of them, but still have more miniatures than I know what to do with. I've played almost every system the Games Workshop ever created, including specialist games and so on and so forth. And even the role-playing games and the board games and stuff. I like the idea of Warhammer and Warhammer Fantasy. I'm sorry, Warhammer 40,000 and Warhammer Fantasy. It's just something I really like. And it's not to say that I don't play other miniature games or so on and so forth. I'm just a hobbyist for and for. Now, I spend a reasonable amount of money. Or at least I used to spend a pretty good amount of money. But as you go on, you kind of run out of things to do. I remember when the Tau first came out, and it was I think they maybe Necrons, but I think they were the last new army. So I was like, oh man, this is so cool, Tau. I'm gonna spend a lot of money on them. It ended up not. I ran into some problem. I was a little younger, I didn't have a lot of money, so on and so forth. Then they redid them as the Tau Empire. Pretty cool. Now I have better means. I have a better grasp of the hobby, of what I might want to do. Bought a few models, painted some stuff. Ended up not really caring that much, but always told myself if I ever thought about them in the back of my head, you know what, I'm going to go back and I'm going to play that army. Now, we talk about a new cow book coming out. I don't care. I'm done. I thought the idea was cool, and I just don't care anymore. Sometimes new releases just they you can't excite people as much the more they've been in the hobby. They've seen a lot. They've already decided what they like, what they don't. They already have some things on their plate. Whereas new people are very different. Which is saying something, because this gets me into a second point, little tangent point, that is new releases in their entirety are pretty much only for veterans. The average new hobbyist will get really excited about things like that, but at the end of the day, if a new Tau Codex comes out, those 3 or 4 new models that are going to be coming with it are no newer to him than the rest of the existing line. Because to a new hobbyist, every single thing in a store is a new release. Where I am different. So if you're a veteran that's like, hey, I spend thousands of dollars, as you, Matthew, mentioned earlier in your video, that happens. You know, tournaments come around, people want to play the meta game, you want 60 Thunderwolves, or you want, a bunch of Paladins. That's completely okay. But that doesn't happen often, and you don't do that every month. And if we just use the aforementioned formula I was talking about, 4 to 5 new hobbyists, measuring anywhere between $200 to $700 of new product a week each, not including potential people that they might also get into the hobby, that is a lot more money than 1 in 50 veterans that are going to spend $2,000 every once in a while. Veterans spend money, and veterans spend money in large increments, but they spend it a lot less time-wise, in larger increments of time. So it ends up not equaling out at all when you compare them to new hobbyists. So there's that, something to think about. Now you mentioned the Facebook and YouTube comments and all that fun stuff. Now you are aware that Games Workshop, and I know that a lot of people, especially older veteran core hobbyists, are going to immediately um, slap this out of the air. But GW tries to be a nice company. So if you are a mother, or if you're a 9-year-old kid and you see a video on the GW website that says, hey, Lightning Bolt 2012, Chaos is coming. That's like, oh, what? That's cool. Because they don't troll around on Warseer or Daka Daka and places like that. They have just seen it for the first time right there. They might not even know what that is. You would not believe how many people, the majority of hobbyists, that don't know things that exist on the Games Workshop website when they are on the website all the time. It's not hard to navigate, but there's a lot of stuff, and if they're focused more on one thing, they might not just sit around, surfing everything that exists. So that might be very new and cool to them. And then if they check it out on YouTube and it says like GW eats dicks in a comment, or oh, I bet the models are going to be $1 billion and they're going to look like shit and the army's going to be broken and I hate Games Workshop. That's not necessarily like a good thing to happen to anyone, really. I mean, it's negative in more ways than just portraying the company in a negative light. It's just, can't people just be excited about things? It doesn't affect you in any way. You don't need to say those things on a video that talks about 12 seconds of nothingness just to excite people. Which is the same thing with a Facebook account. Now, this isn't really an excuse, but more of like a reason why they would definitely not try to remedy a problem. But with their Facebook, they have individual Facebook accounts for every single Games Workshop store in the entire world. Every store that exists has a store, and every employee at the store runs the site. Although the main purpose is for people that come into the store to have a bit of community. And community is going to be a big point of pretty much everything that I'm going to say. But it's about community. They can say, hey, I'm going to come play a game today, and I want to learn how to play my new Beastman army. Does anybody want to play a 1,500-point game of Warhammer Fantasy? And new people can be like, hey, Johnny works at Games Workshops a lot. Can I come into the store and can you teach me how to dry brush? And then I, or the hundreds of thousands of people that are both working and hobbyists and just general members of the community, can be like, yes, we can help you with that. It's all about fostering a hobby community. You can't get that very easily on the internet. In forums like yours, Warseer, Daka, places like that. It's the internet. People are going to troll, they're going to make fun of people, they're going to be overtly mean for little to no reason. Or it's more of a waiting thing. And you'll have to wait for somebody to be like, hey, let me show you a video or a picture or something. And that's not necessarily bad, but it comes back to the hands-on, tactile bit of the hobby that you mentioned, and I will come back to later. So at the end of the day, if Games Workshop shut down their Facebook because people were bitching and complaining about something copyright crazy, it doesn't matter. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect the hobby. It doesn't affect the prices. It doesn't affect codex creep. It affects nothing. It doesn't matter. It's a little silly, I get it. I mean, part of me can see why they would want to defend a copyright because it's a copyright. But at the same time, I think, hey, that's kind of dumb. Why do you worry so much, Games Workshop, about protecting your IP? Either way, it doesn't matter what my opinion is. You know what? Because my Space Marines are going to be Space Marines. My paints are going to be paints. My codex isn't going to change. And no matter how many times I walk into that store and say, hey, you should use the word Space Marine a little bit more liberally, they're not going to change their prices. So I don't know why that's a big deal at all as far as an online hobby community goes. Now, if recruiting stores are what Games Workshop stores are, and you want to have a cool community where you can play games and you can have tournaments and competitions, stuff like that, make one. Be your community. If you want tournaments, is it difficult to say, hey, I have or know a person with a basement. Let's get a few tables from Home Depot that cost $15. Throw a tarp over them. Use some soup cans as pillboxes or something like that. Charge everyone $5 and then give somebody a gift card to their favorite online retailer or local gaming store based on what's closer. What's stopping you from doing that? Why do you need somebody that's wearing a shirt that has an Imperial Eagle on it tell you, hey, we're having a tournament this Saturday and this is what is going to be part of the tournament? They are no different than you. They're getting paid to run a store. And if they're having a problem running their store, or if they're more focused on one thing or the next, there is no reason that they should cater to your need for tournaments. There's no reason. Now, if they're well off, or they have an extensive staff or something like that, then they might have a reason to do something like that. But, you know what? If they don't, then why would they do that? It's just not going to happen. Again, I did. I had a very integral community, and I really pushed that point home. And a lot of them helped me out with that, running scenarios, promoting, so on and so forth, just getting the word out. And you can be that person. Everyone has it in them. That's pretty much all I have to say. Community is community. Now, Games Workshop is looking out for their business in their decisions that they're making. But why do they have to look out for your business? Mini-Wargaming is pretty cool. I don't have as much experience with your individual site as some others. Warseer was big when I was younger, and that's kind of like what I came up in. I don't like it that much anymore, but it just seems kind of like, second nature to just click on my Warseer bookmark and go there. Everything I've seen come out of your site is really good. I like that you have articles, so on and so forth. But you know what? You're literally playing into a role that Games Workshop's setting upon you. They're telling you that you can't do something anymore, and if you're going to order things, you can order in such a small increment that you won't make any money off of it. And you're like, well, that sucks, but I can't do any business. But you know who can do business based off of that? Games Workshop. And you say this a lot in your video, that at some points you're like, why would they do this? And then other points you're saying, oh, well, they really benefit from this. Everything they do is supposed to benefit them. They don't care about you, and they have no reason to. Just like you shouldn't make business decisions to affect Games Workshop. And if you do, maybe that's a lot of the other points that you mentioned that weren't Games Workshop that are affecting your business closing. I don't know if that's the case. There's a lot of different factors, and I know that in today's economy as a whole, living in the United States, but also worldwide, it's not necessarily the best time for businesses at all. But you know what? If that's your train of thought, I don't know what to tell you, buddy. You might want to kind of shift your focus, I should say. Which I think that's exactly what you did say. Go into something else. I think my favorite line from your whole video was, they're not saying they're trying to shut us down. But you see, they're saying they want to shut us down. And then you go on about how other websites do pro hobby stuff, and then chastise Games Workshop for not having pro hobby stuff and being mostly a selling tool. Yeah, that's kind of it, actually. You kind of hit the nail on the head there, and I don't know why this was a point, because it seemed pretty obvious to me that they're allowing places like you, place like your website and your store, to do selling and then community building and so on and so forth. And then when they realize that the community is building, or it's gotten to a point where they think it's kind of like stagnated or something like that, they're telling you can't do it anymore so they can make more money. And like you said, you're still gonna do videos. You're still gonna have pro hobby stuff. So you're, like I said before, you're playing into the role that they set upon you. Can you not make money and let us make all the money, but keep doing all the hobby stuff that you do? And you're like, well, yeah, but fuck you. Like, you're just doing what they want you to do, man. So that's no one's fault but your own. And I mean, I hope whatever other endeavors you have are good, but that's not really a legitimate complaint. Um, Also, I have $1 million that says if you lose customers, they will gain them. I'm not gonna say that, they're gonna gain all of them. No, not even close. But if people are buying from you and your store shuts down, they're not gonna quit the hobby. They're going to buy from somewhere else. So a lot of other places are gonna get those customers. They're not all gonna go to Games Workshop, but if one does, they're gonna be happy because that's more money that they made. You know. But it's not. It's going to be probably a reasonable margin. And if they go to other places like eBay, well, a lot of eBay stuff is either people selling their old stuff, which GW doesn't make any more of a profit on, or online retailers that buy their stuff from a trade account and then turn around and sell it online. It's happened a billion times. I've seen the room with the trade salespeople. They work their ass off to try to hunt those people down because there's a lot of them. A lot of people that have their own business, whether or not they do online business, brick and mortar, then turn around and sell it stuff on eBay. And if they can track them down, they shut them down. And then those businesses go out of business because if they're losing 80% of their profit as well, not going to work out for them very well. Just a point, I guess. Now, Games Workshop has a website. You say like, some people like the convenience of a website. Cool. Maybe that's why GW has one. I don't know. Maybe just a point. If you can buy online or from somebody else online, they can buy from GW too. They don't need a brick and mortar store because that was one of your points, if you recall, that they're trying to focus more on brick and mortar, and you're like, well, some people don't have brick and mortar, so they have to buy online. Yeah, from Games Workshop, that's what they want. But also, I mean, on the bright side, they are trying to encourage brick and mortar because that's where they make a lot of their money. And I'll get to a more specific point about this later, but they will also maybe put a Games Workshop store there. Who knows? If there's a need for it, they will. And of course, brick and mortar stores are going to stock 100% of their product because GW has an online store. They don't care if you can't stock it. In fact, that's better for them. If you can just stock a tiny percentage of their stuff, and people are like, oh, this is really cool, I want this, how do I get more? Well, we can't stock it. Where can I get it? Gamesworkshop.com. There you go. It's not difficult. This is all business. And GW aren't these tyrannical companies. Of course, none of the rules apply to them. They create, make, distribute, sell all of their own stuff. If they want to change the rules on how this is going to be sold or distributed around the world, that's completely on them. And I'm sure if and when you make your own products, you will do the same thing. You will control the distribution. And if there's a bad business investment, you probably won't make it. At the first, obviously, you're going to probably want to get the word out as much as you can, just like GW did. But that time is long gone for them. They are an official, publicly traded company, which is more than anyone else can say. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you yourself said that their company will create gaps that need to be filled with companies like Privateer Press, so on and so forth. And that's not a bad thing. That's how the economy runs. Now you don't see trade accounts, and you don't see business numbers of Games Workshop. They release some of this stuff, but they don't release any of the trade account stuff. They do. You don't get calls from trade accounts complaining about online retailers that discount. Games Workshop does. I worked for Games Workshop, and like I said, and I don't know how many times I saw people come in and they were like, "Oh yeah, I got this thing on eBay. Oh yeah, I got this thing for 20% off. Do you know you get things for 20% off?" And everyone in the store is like, "Oh, you can?" And then the less integral members of my community that don't care about a local gaming store, which ended up closing because of people like them, they don't care about that. They just care about their own pocketbooks, just like GW does. So GW is taking that stuff into account when they make their decisions. They're not trying to screw everyone over necessarily, although that will happen. But it's not just the people in the middle of nowhere that are buying from these online stores. It's people that live in a community. I'm from Chicago. I'm lucky that not only are there tons of Games Workshops here, even though quite a few of them have closed, but also there's tons of other local gaming stores that don't just sell Games Workshop product. And to be fair, if Games Workshop stopped giving them product, they wouldn't go out of business. They'd be okay because they have plenty of other stuff, and plenty of them have tables and stuff like that. Not a counterpoint to what you're saying. I'm saying I'm lucky to be in a situation like that. But to be in a situation like that and then still see people going online and buying from people that give discounts proves only one thing: that people want to save money. It's the same idea that people feel they are entitled to discounts for no reason. Much like customers think they deserve cheaper models from Games Workshop for GW to cater to them. Why do so many Space Marines come out? Because A, Space Marines are fucking cool as hell, and B, they're half of the model range, and C, they sell more than anything else. I think Eldar are really badass. I can't wait until they come out. But if GW releases Space Marines for another 3 years, I'm not going to be confused as to why. It's fucking business. It's not very difficult. These people have families to support at Games Workshop, mortgages to pay, so on and so forth, as do every one of their customers, as does everyone who runs an online store and a retailer, a brick and mortar or otherwise. It doesn't matter. They need to make money. That's pretty much all I have to say. No one is entitled to anything. Discounts don't need to occur. Obviously, they will need to occur if you are a business partner, although if you're online, that's not going to be a deal anymore. But because these people are undercutting so much and ruining Games Workshop business, they dug their own grave because of that. It's, of course, a free market, but because GW is a distributor and a seller of the product, then you can't go back and try to screw them over and then be mad when they change their ideas, because you're trying to screw over the people that give you the product in the first place. Are you confused as to why they are screwing you over now? It's the same thing. I also found it really funny that you said GW should fix their prices in different countries, and how it screwed over Europe, which really wasn't that bad. And GW posted an actual huge profitable year last year. But actually, a friend of mine posted this example, and I told him I would say it on a comment on Facebook or something like that. And he's saying it's similar to saying BMW should sell their $80,000 car for $60,000 in Canada because the exchange rates are so bad that Canadians shouldn't have to pay so much. GW can't affect global economies as much as I wish that they could in a very, Cobra sense. Just, control everything in the world. Not gonna happen. But that's a different subject entirely, which is the economy. You can't be mad about that. They're trying to recoup their losses or just deny them entirely. So it's whatever. It's a shame that you can't do business the way you want and the way you're used to, and you're deciding to shut down. But GW isn't the only reason for that, unless you put all of your chips on that space. And I apologize for that, even though it's not my fault. So that begs the question of what other business decisions you're making. And I noticed that you had a really long video talking about all the things GW is doing wrong, but you didn't really focus on all other things that you might have not have done correctly. Obviously, nobody's perfect. We're in a rough place globally for any market to succeed. But you're just making an excuse. Not a big one, but it's an excuse, and it's going to make even more people angry at the GW brand. You even said in your video that they can't change the way their product is viewed or their brand is viewed, and I think the best example for that is videos like the one you posted. Now, when you pretended, and I'm going to use the word pretended, that GW's biggest customers are in their 20s, really? Your customers, probably. Of course, they're the internet savvy, iPad, iPhone, Android guys you mentioned. Yeah, that's a lot of the people I play with, a lot of people I know, and a lot of the people that I know that buy online. That's who you're talking about. The majority of GW's customers is not even close to being those people. It is kids that kids that have credit cards nowadays, crazy stuff like that, children, okay, and their parents. Now, obviously, there's middle-aged gamers, older gamers, so on and so forth, and older gamers are actually like that too. And I've seen that a lot. A lot of older guys that are into things like model cars and airplanes and decided to get into the Games Workshop hobby. They're kind of the same deal. So basically, you're taking a fraction of here's the little pie piece: children, parents, 20-year-olds, older people, middle-aged people, and you were talking about these one pie piece when the rest of them is very different. When you're talking about web security and web privacy, children are required when using Games Workshop's website to have an adult help them out, use an email address, credit card, so on and so forth, something to basically make sure that it's not just a child, younger than, I think you have to be 15 or something, or older, they're okay. But anything younger than that, they have to have parental supervision and all that fun stuff. And that leads to not only a lot of kids in that area and a lot of parents. Plus, you know that like a lot of 20-year-olds, like the internet savvy kind of people, like their parents like still buy them stuff. It's sad. I shouldn't say sad. It's inconvenient. It's I don't know. I won't use a lot of the words I want to use because it's offensive. But but they do care about secure transactions, invasive site features, so on and so forth. So when GW says we're super secure, so on and so forth, the majority of customers do care. It's parents, it's kids. You should see how many parents come in to buy their kids stuff. You'll see a kid in your shop a bunch of times, and he won't buy anything. And then when he's ready to buy something, his mom or dad, who's been dropping him off at the store all this time, comes in and is like, I want a Captain Darnath Lysander. Well, we don't have him in the store, sir. Well, damn. Well, you can order him. Computers, no. And they just don't want to do it. Or moms are like, oh, wait, you have to put information on the computer? Well, we need your phone number so we can call you when the product comes in. Oh, but I don't want to put it on the computer, because it might be on a computer then, and then everyone in the world will know my phone number. Well, actually, it's one of the most secure transactions that can be offered in this line of blah, 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 blah. Oh, that's nice. That makes me feel good that little Jimmy's going to be here, and you're a nice person, and there's security. They care. They really do. And when GW is talking about tracking, do you think that there's, like, spy drones that are going to come and, like, oh, shit, they're buying Privateer Press stuff, bomb their house? Because that's not the case. Not even a little. Tracking is, hey, people are buying shit in Kansas, or people are buying things in Arizona. Maybe we should put a store there. That's what tracking is. Tracking is finding out what people do and then putting stores in their locations. That's what that's all about. They're not tracking your personal information, although they do have it all. securely. You can get a fucking thing in the mail that says, "Hey, a local gaming store is having a cool release," or it's having their opening birthday party or something like that, and there's gonna be exclusive one time only things that you can get there and nowhere else. Obviously, it's a money grab. But I mean, if you can get a little beanie with an Imperial Guard symbol on it, or a belt with a Imperial Aquila, or a Chaos Star backpack or something like that, people love that shit. I don't care if it's $30. If you can't get it anywhere else, people want it. It's cool. It's swag. Why wouldn't you want it? When I say swag, I mean like it's not like broy 18-year-old who needs smarts when you got swag. I mean like pirate swag. That's completely unrelated, but I thought I'd be open about that. Either way, you're dumb if you think that tracking and security and privacy are different things. Because I've personally talked to the people that scout locations, and these people aren't like money Games Workshop, Scrooge McDucks. Okay, they are average people that are good at numbers, good at plotting locations and scouting locations, that were hired by Games Workshop for that purpose. They look at numbers, they don't care about the hobby, they don't care about anything other than completing the task that's given to them. They know what they're doing, and they use those numbers to see those things. If they're talking about opening up a store in Florida, which I'm not sure if they have opened it yet, but they were talking about, that's because they were looking online and seeing, hey, people buying from Games Workshop are here, 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 here. Hey, there's a huge concentration in Miami or in Orlando or in, Tampa or whatever the fuck. Maybe we should put a store there. You know what? There's not a good location. What's our next best choice? That's what those people are there for, and that's what those numbers are there for. It doesn't change security at all, okay? And lastly, my favorite thing. When you cited that Games Workshop was talking about the tactile, hands-on nature of the hobby, how touching and handling the product was good, and then you stated, well, there's an office store that I can go online and get it sent to me, and it's in my hands. Motherfucker, do you think that when you buy Space Marines online, they send you a digital copy or some shit? You get it in the mail, and you can touch it, and you can play with them, and you can paint them. They're actual things. That's not what touching product and looking at things and getting a hands-on view of the hobby is all about. It's about going into a store and getting that same experience. Also, then you made it seem like touching and handling the product didn't matter because I could just go online and get it sent to me. Also, they do like free shipping and stuff. And then earlier in your video said that Games Workshop does the same thing. If you order, you can get it shipped to you for free once per week. Obviously encouraging you to do a solid purchase, so you don't do a bunch of little piecemeal stuff, because that ends up costing them a ton of money, especially when they're not shipping it locally, like something like a office supply store is, and Games Workshop is shipping from one central location, either if you're in the U.S. to anywhere in the U.S. or Canada, or if they're in the U.K., shipping over here as well if they don't have the products they need, which happens way more often than you'd probably believe. So how can this company be great and GW be bad when they literally offer the same products? Again, GW doesn't do it all the time, because when they're shipping at the magnitude that they're shipping and you want a bunch of little orders 3 or 4 times a week, you're obviously going to pay a little extra for it. I don't think that's completely unreasonable. Again, shipping globally at some points. But if you do smart buys, which, with your business going out of business for things that aren't just Games Workshop, might come into question. If you ship smartly, you won't have to worry about that. So, while I agree with some of the stuff you said, I don't appreciate that as a person who pretends to want to grow the hobby, you then complain when a business decision made by another company affects your own personal business decisions, and that they shouldn't look out for their own company and they should look out for yours and everyone else's. It's a little silly, and it brings even more negative light. Again, same reasons they don't have Facebook anymore and so on and so forth, because they want to make money and have a family-friendly environment, store, so on and so forth, hobby in general. And you're not helping. Being a figurehead of a hobby community, I figured you might have a little bit more respect, but definitely not. So, debunked a few things. I'd be happy to go back and forth if you have a few things to say about what I say. But all things said, I do wish you luck in your endeavors. I hope that you and your business stay strong, and I hope the same thing for Games Workshop. Okay? Bye.